Thank you very much, Carol. Good day and welcome to today's worship service. We're grateful that you're here with us today. My name is Dean Kurtz. I'm the service coordinator for today here at All Souls Church, where our mission is to seek truth, practice love, and to celebrate life. Whether you're joining us for the first time here today or you've been a member for a long time, you're welcome here. Whether your faith you have known or not known, or whatever your heritage, you are welcome here. Whatever questions you hold, whatever truths you seek, whatever sorrow you have known, whatever joy has filled your heart, whoever you are, whomever you love, you are welcome here. And now for a few announcements. I call your attention to the notice of next Sunday's program at the bottom of your order of service and the announcement on that insert. Urge you to continue to read our weekly email blasts for the dates and details of additional upcoming events and opportunities. If you're not receiving the weekly email, please sign up for them on the clipboard in the foyer before leaving. And I invite you to stay for a conversation, coffee, and a circle discussion following today's service. Are there any other announcements? I see a couple.
Very sorry to announce the passing yesterday morning of John Hutchinson. He was at the Centennial Cottage here in town. And I have a card that if you'd like to sign, you can do that and pass it all the way back on this side and then back up to the front on this side, please. A service is planned for next Saturday afternoon at 2 o'clock at George Boom Funeral Home on East 10th Street for John Hutchinson.
Good morning. I'm Liz. I'm the president of the church here. Just a couple things. Ellen and I have been discussing taking out the front fence, and if anybody has thoughts or ideas or any other, information on that, they're welcome to stop and talk to me or Ellen about that. The second thing is that Ellen did announce last week that we sold a house and we have paid off our church. And I think that's just an incredible change. And that's just a testament. Yeah, and being the person that signed the documents and deposited the check, I have to tell you that it felt like a weight was there, but also happy to be moving on to the next phase of our church. And it felt like everybody who'd been a Unitarian was sitting there with me when I put that check down to because so many more people than myself had built this church and created what we have here, and I'm just a small part of the whole bigger picture. So I just want to thank everybody who worked on that and helped us get to that point, and just know how grateful I am.
Not seeing any other announcements. Proceed to the prelude, Carol. Now it's time for the chalice lighting, number 436 in the back of your green book. We come to this time and this place to renew our faith in the holiness, goodness, and beauty of life. To rekindle the flame of memory and hope, and thank you, Dan. Now it's time for our opening song, number 852, Sweet Fields of Autumn. Please stand if you're able. Well, I hope you apologize me, or let me apologize for misreading the print on that. That's what happens when you get old. You can't see numbers. Yeah, that was actually number 52, not 852, as I'm sure you all realized. But now it's time for the first reading. Let's see if I get this right. Number 538. And let's see. Harbingers of frost. Autumn we know in life en route to death. The asters are but harbingers of frost. The trees flaunting their colors at the sky, and other times will follow where the leaves have fallen, and so shall we. Yet other lives will come, so may we know, accept, embrace the mystery of life we hold a while, nor mourn that it outgrows each separate self, but still rejoice that we may have our day, lift high our colors to the sky, and give in our time fresh glory to the earth. Robert Weston. Now, I guess we have the story for all ages. Anybody care to join me up front here for the story for all ages? I see one volunteer. Well, no other volunteers, huh? Seems like I know you from someplace. All right, we are going to read a story today. You might be familiar with it. Will You Be My Sunshine? And it happens to be dedicated to Ellie, who is right here. Will you be my sunshine? Will you be my sunshine on a cold and frosty day? Hard to turn these pages here. Yes, I'll be your sunshine on a cold and frosty day. With warm smiles and great big hugs, I'll chase the clouds away. Will you be my rainbow when all seems dull and gray? Kind of raining there on the school bus. Yes, I'll be your rainbow when all seems dull and gray. Everything will brighten up as we laugh and play. Will you be my bright star to show the way back home? Yes, I'll be your bright star to show the way back home. I'll be shining sure and true, however far you roam. Will you be my moonbeam at night when it's so dark? Yes, I'll be your moonbeam at night when it's so dark. My love for you will shine right through like a brightly glowing spark. I'm so glad you are my sunshine, my rainbow up above, my bright star and moonbeam, my sweet and precious love. I love you, Ellie. Yep. Thank you all. Now let's sing the children out. In this congregation, we found it helpful to share the ups and downs of our lives by the practice of taking a stone from a bowl, holding it in our hand, warming it, and expressing our thoughts of joy and or concern, and then placing the stone in the water so that the ripples of the water carry out the joys and concerns out into the outer world. I'll begin by taking one stone to express my joy today at having Sharon with me, and her cousin David is joining us from the St. Louis area, and so that's a real joy for us. And I'll invite anybody else that's got a joy or concern to come up and partake.
Well, we have the joy of celebrating Veterans Day early today. We're thankful to Erin Brown to be our speaker about the South Dakota Veterans Cemetery, and grateful for all veterans, including Dean and Richard. And do we have any other veterans here of the U.S. military? Yes, David, thank you for your service, all of you. And we appreciate all that our veterans have done to keep our nation safe. Another stone in memory of Dory Thompson, the mother of Paul Thompson, who died last August, and she's being remembered by Paul and other members of his family in Arizona today.
Hi, excuse me. My name is Pat, and I'm a member of the team that's doing the donations for Rosebud. And so my joy for today is that when I walked in, I already saw stuff in the box. Thank you to all of you who remembered, and I'm looking forward to the next two. I think we have through the 23rd, November 23rd, for donations, and I look forward to more generosity from all of you. Thank you so much.
Not seeing any others, I'll take this final stone, warm it, place it in the bowl for those thoughts and memories that remain unsaid here today. Now let us pause for a moment of silent reflection as we consider what we have just heard and what in our own hearts and in our own minds. Thank you. Now if we can go to our second song, number 412, Let Hope and Sorrow Now Unite. Again, please stand if you're able. Thank you. Our second reading is number 721. They are with us still. Excuse me. I'll read, I think I'll read the bold print, and if you would do the same for the italics. In the struggles we choose for ourselves and the ways we move forward in our lives and bring our world forward with us. We share a history with those lives. We belong to the same motion. Those who lived before us, who struggled for justice and suffered injustice before us, have not melted into the dust and have not disappeared. Their words remind us and call us back to ourselves. Their courage and love evoke our own. We will live and carry them with us. We are their voices, their hands, and their hearts. Silently, let's name those who have lent strength in our lives. Catherine McTeague. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker for the day, Erin Brown, who is the director of the South Dakota State Veterans Cemetery. Erin and I have the pleasure to call Erin a former neighbor and still a friend. She lived right across the street from us until we moved away from her here a couple years ago. But anyhow, she's here to talk to us today about the South Dakota State Veterans Cemetery. Erin?
Thank you. I think Dean and Sharon now don't have a heart attack every time my kids come flying down the driveway.
Yeah.
I think Dean a couple of times came over and go, "Is he okay?" Because my They like to be on rollerblades and anything with wheels. So they would come flying down, and Dean's eyes, you could see across the street, would be this big. He didn't know if they were going to make that turn onto the sidewalk or not. And then add the snow and the ice, and they're good to go. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Erin. I am the director out at the Veterans Cemetery, and I've been there from the beginning, and I'll kind of get into all of that. I'll kind of give us a walking tour around the cemetery, and Dean says we get questions later on, so we can turn that into a discussion in a little while. I'll start with a little bit about myself, which is the part I always normally skip over, but so I joined the Minnesota Army National Guard when I was a junior in high school. I went to basic training in between my junior and senior year, came back for that last year of high school, and then once I graduated, I went down to Fort Lee, Virginia for my second part of my training. I then got back from that one and went to the University of Minnesota up in the Twin Cities, and I had 3 years completed, and then our unit was deployed to Iraq. We did a 22-month deployment, 16 months in Iraq with a 6-month train-up before we left, so a total of the 22 months. When I came back, I had about 3 semesters of school left, got those finished, and then why not? Went right on to grad school up in St. Cloud, and while I was up there, I worked at a Boys and Girls Club for a little while, and then I became a county veteran service officer up in St. Cloud. With all of that experience, we were about 3.5 hours from home because I grew up in Laverne. So my husband had just left on another deployment for him. Our oldest was about 1, not quite, and it was time to move home. So the South Dakota Department of Veterans Affairs had some openings. I applied, and then I've been with them now for over 11 years. So I started in our claims office, helping and meeting with veterans, just as I had done up in St. Cloud. Everything possible, pension claims, compensation claims, meeting with veterans about any questions that they may have and or their family members as well. Anything from compensation claims if they'd gotten hurt while in the service, all the way to death, any benefits if the veteran had passed. So got to learn, every question anybody would have, lots of information and knowledge and that interaction with all the veterans that would come in. While in the claims office, I was meeting with veterans, and then I became our program manager for our field veteran service officers, and they go out and help train all of our county and tribal veteran service officers across the whole state. So I was then in charge of them and our office in Pierre. And while all of this was going on, in the background, we were starting the process and the grant process for the cemetery. South Dakota was one of a few states only that did not have a state veteran cemetery. So Erin, my boss, the deputy secretary, and our department had started that process to have one brought here. The National Cemetery Administration has a veteran cemetery grant program, and that's where all the state cemeteries are run out of. And none of that part you guys care, but that's all the back history of it. So we fall under the National Cemetery Administration for compliance surveys, eligibility, and funding. So it's federally grant funded, but state owned and operated. So myself and my staff, we all fall right under the South Dakota Department of Veterans Affairs. And within our department, like I mentioned, we have our claims office and all of our veteran service officers that meet with veterans. We have our veterans home out in Hot Springs, and then our other branch is the cemetery itself. So planning was some legislation that had to happen first, and then final award of the grant and groundbreaking was in 2019. So groundbreaking in 2019, and then we started burials in June of 2021. So we're on to our 5th year already, and we've done over 1,100 burials. So my crew has been busy. And like I said, I've been honored and, there's too many other words in there, but completely honored to have been a part of this process ever since. We got to go out just as this was a soybean field up until that construction phases, and then all the way through being able to operate this every day. Like I said, 2020 and 2021 were still a little bit of construction, and then we've grown as we have come along these last couple years. This city of Sioux Falls donated 60 acres. And has anybody been out to the cemetery before? Yeah, we have a few. Yes. So City of Sioux Falls donated this 60 acres. Future build out, they do a big plan from the beginning, and we're looking at over 28,000 plots that should last us over 150 years. And that big expansion and full future build out, which none of us will ever be around to see, will go eventually through that flagpole. So the big 70-foot flagpole that you guys can see from the interstate, we will eventually have burial areas all the way around that flagpole. And if you've been out there, that pole looks a little ways up that hill. So what we have done right now, it's just easier to bring a picture because then I can have you do a little walking tour with me. So our offices are right in here in this building. I'm out there every day from 8 to 4:30. And then I have a cemetery representative that's in the front with me. He's answering the phones and working with the families as they come in. So either him or myself will actually be the one that runs all of our committal services. And then our maintenance shop is hooked right on to our building. We have a little break room, and then that goes right into our shop. I have a maintenance supervisor, and now I have 3 maintenance, we call them cemetery technicians. And those guys do everything from mowing, weeding, fertilizing, all of our irrigation, and everything into the actual burial itself. And I was just telling Dean we want a whole bunch of snow this winter because we got some new equipment we need to try out. But so all of us are right in here, and then we'll come back to the service. So our first section here, we have our in-ground cremains. So actually, let's back up. The type of burials that we can perform out at the cemetery, if we have a cremation, we can go in-ground, which would be this section right here. So those plots are 3 feet by 4 feet, and that allows us to have a veteran and their dependent in that same plot, along with their headstone. Those headstones are about this tall, and they're a good 240 pounds. Then this next, my guys love it when I try to help them because they're always much taller, and we try to carry them, and it never really works. Then this next section we have, that's our casket section. So during construction, they bowl out that whole area, and they put 610 vaults in the ground already. So they are right next to each other. You know, when we do a burial, we can see that next plot right next to them. So our caskets go double depth. That first casket will go down to the 7-foot mark. We put a divider in between, and then that second casket, their loved one, would go right on the top. And we can go into some eligibility in a little bit here. But so there's 610 in there already. So my guys, we dig about 18 inches, and then we remove that lid, which is a good 1,000 pounds. And then we have lowering device that first casket would go all the way down. So that's this section. And then another option for a cremation is our columbarium wall. And this, each veteran and their dependent receive a niche. So on top of that niche, we have niche covers, we call them. So their headstone is that niche. It's a granite niche that goes right over their slot in that wall. And we get about 50-50. We get some funny reasons why they want to be above ground and some other funny reasons of why they chose to be in ground. So that one is just a preference, whatever the family decides on that type of burial. We do have a scattering garden as well. This one is not used as much. You know, people kind of know about it, but they normally pick the other 2 options. And then their information, we have a little memorial wall right there. Their information will be placed right on that wall. And then we continue taking the loop here, and this is our committal shelter. So if you think of a traditional graveside service, we do all of our services right there in that shelter. When the families come up for a service, we all line up right here, and we've had some where we've had 3 rows of cars and people all the way out to that wedding barn before. So we could have one car for a service, or we could have 200. So we all line up right here, and then we do a procession up to our committal shelter. And that service is about 15 to 20 minutes. And if we are laying the veteran to rest, then that's when we would also do military honors. So it's up to the family if they want to bring clergy, or sometimes some grandkids sing or read a poem, whatever they want to do in that time, and we can accommodate, we sure do. And then that's also where we do all of our military honors, and these amazing groups come out and support us for the rifle volley taps, and then our active duty component will fold and present the flag. And then once the service is complete, if it is a cremation, we will take the veteran or their dependent and do the actual burial. We have the family remain up at the committal shelter. It takes us about 10 minutes, and we will actually complete the burial. And then we come back up and get the family and bring them to the exact plot where their loved one is at. We place a temporary marker in place that day, and then as soon as their stone gets here, we will get that placed, and then we give them a call and let them know that it's here. And then a side note on that, they're all a government contract from down south, and they do take about 6 to 8 weeks to get here. So then service complete, and then the family is allowed to stay at their gravesite for as long as they want. Some days, if it's as windy as it today, some of them don't hang around very often or for very long, but we do have quite a few families that we've gotten to know over the years that they visit every day or every other day, and we get the good wave or the how you doing. So that's been one of those great honors too, to have all these families, come and be part of the cemetery family, if we will. And then just some eligibility pieces. Any veteran that was active duty before 1980, any of their active duty time counts as eligibility, as long as it's an honorable discharge. And then any time after 1980, we do have to have 24 consecutive months. And then there's, some of those other gray areas where we can go into a lot more detail. But so then the dependent eligibility. If the veteran is married at the time of their passing or their spouse, that spouse is eligible. The other one would be a child under the age of 18 or 23 if they're going to school. That would be one of those other times where a child would be eligible. And or a helpless child, which they had to have been deemed that before the age of 18. So in a couple circumstances, are children allowed to be buried with us as well. When the family does come, here's my little plug I get to do. Tell somebody what you want to do. Tell somebody what your plans would be when you pass. Those are some of the questions we get where, a 50-year-old kid would call and say, my dad passed yesterday, what do I do? And then, we direct them to a funeral home. They would have to work with the funeral home first, and then that funeral home will coordinate with us. And in that case, the son said, are we thinking a casket or cremation? Just because that's a different type of burial for us to plan. And he goes, I don't know. We never talked about it. So let somebody know what your wishes are, and, get those important documents where they need to go. Because with that one, we had a daughter. She couldn't find her dad's DD-214, which is that discharge paper I need to see to determine eligibility. Couldn't find it. We ended up finding it through a different way. Who wants to guess where she finally found it? In the glove box of Dad's car as she was selling it. In the envelope, still the carbon copy original that we had been looking for. So get those documents where we need them to go, and just have everything prepared for your family so no one's worrying about that at that time of need. There's my hopeless plug. But, and we do have other ways to help find all of those paperwork, but it's easier if we can pre-plan some of that now. So families, funeral homes will reach out to us. Most of the time, we do have the funeral home that will reach out to us, and we'll be doing that burial right after their funeral. Other times, the family have held on to their loved one for years and years, and then they reach out and say, okay, it's finally time. you're open, we've heard about you, this is where they want to be. So then we'll be working with the family and get their burial scheduled. So we have some veterans that passed 10 years ago, and we have some veterans, that had passed just last week. So anyone would reach out to us, and we do not have a residency requirement. So anybody from anywhere, we've done some burials from Alaska all the way down to Texas and Arizona. And you get a lot of our snowbirds that, well, Dad grew up there and this is where he wanted to come back to. So we do get to do all of those. So like we said, the funeral home will help us with some of our paperwork. The family does tell us what they want on that headstone and all of that additional inscription of what we want on that stone, including the emblem. So there are a couple things that the VA does require, branch of service, that kind of stuff, but we do have a couple extra lines where we get to be very specific for that family. We do, like we were talking paperwork, we do have a pre-application process that we can go through, and then that's when we get to have all of those interactions with the family. So not only are we doing services, which we do have the availability to do 7 in one day, we can start services at 9 a.m. and then go until 3. So any of those casket, cremation, we can fit that many within a day. And we also have quite a few veterans and their families that just come in. It still amazes us to this day of how many are like, well, we've been meaning to get out here. We haven't seen it yet, or we never knew about it. Those are still, that shock me because we've been on the news and so many people have come out that we feel, but we still have so many that come in and say, we live in town and we've been here the whole time and we didn't know where it was at, but we're finally getting out here. So those are really rewarding for us too, for everyone to come through. So we visit with probably it's been lately over 100 other individuals that are not part of a service that come into the cemetery every month. So that's our really rewarding part of everyone to be able to still come out. Eligibility. This is where I normally get to ask for questions, but since we get to do that in a little bit, I'm sure there'll be a couple, but is there anything I missed? Dean gets to come out and see me quite often. Oh, I could have started with that part, right? See, there's one of those things I just assume everybody knows. We are just north of town. So the easiest way to come to us would take 229 north, and you're going to go under 90, and we're that first right, which is Slip Up Creek Road. We're right by, the new golf course came to our part of town. So first right is Slip Up Creek Road, and that road will take you right to our front gate. And that's about the easiest way to get to us, because if you take Cliff, you get to take a little gravel road and then get on Jim's Weep Highway. So 229 north, and then your first right underneath Interstate 90. See, there's one. Okay.
All right,
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
When I told the people that Erin did a good job speaking, I guess I wasn't lying. Very good. Appreciate that. Now we have our offering today, and you'll have to excuse me again. I forget who we're sharing that offering with. Anybody? Liz, you know who it is? Rosebud. Okay, so it's a very worthwhile offering. Half of our offering today will go to Rosebud. Well, I almost said thank you, Carol, but I would have been wrong. Thank you, Alan. Let us read together the words to receive the offering. We give these gifts freely. We receive these gifts gratefully. We dedicate these gifts to the work of our congregation, serving human wholeness, caring for our planet, upholding religious freedom, welcoming the stranger, and loving one another. Our closing song is number 1018. I guess it's in the Teal book. Come and go with me. Please stand if you're able. Our third reading is number 685, and I'll read that for you. What we call a beginning is often the end, and to make an end is to make a beginning. The end is where we start from. We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all of our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time. T.S. Eliot. Now it's time to extinguish our chalice. They're arguing over who gets to do it. You know? The chalice is extinguished, but the light goes with us out into the world. All right, just one. Here's the possible.